Hi Year 11s. I know it's only week 3, but a few of you have already started asking me about essay structures for comparative analysis, so I thought I'd make you just a quick video to go through the basics so that when we do get to structuring and writing full essays in a couple of weeks, you'll have something to go back and look at. So structuring an essay for comparative is very similar to a regular text response in that you're still talking about themes, characters and the author's message, but the order that you put it in might change a little bit. So the one thing I want you to really pay attention to is the aim of the piece, and that is that you're using one of the texts to deepen the understanding of the other. So you should still be looking at both texts equally, it just depends on which order that you write about them. Now this is an essential skill in the VCE study design and it is expected that you know how to do this, so we want to really work hard on it this year so that when you get to year 12 you will know exactly what you're doing. So the question is, how do you structure that essay? Now there are generally 4 different ways that you can structure a comparative essay. All of them are generally accepted at VCE level, though there are 2 that we prefer here at Kiel or Downs, and I'll go through them in a minute. I want to go through the main 4 to start with. So you could start with a simple structure. All of them, as you can see, have an introduction and a conclusion. It's what happens in the middle that might vary from piece to piece. So a simple essay will have one full paragraph about text A. That could be 12 Angry Men or it could be Montana 1948. It's really up to you. Then your second paragraph is particularly going to talk about the comparisons with the other text. So that's your similarities. You would then have almost what we used to be a contrast, like your however paragraph when you're talking about themes. And that comes in here as paragraph 3. So that's your differences. Okay, so yeah, in a regular text response essay, that would be your however paragraph looking at the other side of an argument. Option number 2 is over here, that's alternating. So that is where you still have 3 main ideas in your essay, but rather than writing 3 full paragraphs, you write probably 6 half paragraphs. So your actual internal paragraph structure would change. Now that can be a little bit more complicated because you are starting with one text, having like a half paragraph, then to the next one, and so on all the way down. So you are writing probably more if you're going for this structure. The same can be said for one at a time as well, because you've still got 3 ideas you have to talk about. You are always going to have at least 3 arguments for a text response essay. The difference is, with this one, you talk about all 3 arguments for one text, then you move on to the exact same 3 arguments for the other text. So you are changing text and your comparative is really only going to be coming in here between your changeover. So your actual use of language will be restricted in this one. Now the last one is your side by side. This is what we really recommend for you. Okay, so you still have your 3 big ideas, but as you can see in each paragraph you talk about both texts. That could be that you interweave them and have 1 sentence each if you really want to go that way, or you still do sort of half a paragraph on text A and half a paragraph on text B, but you have more comparative language. So it shows a lot more sophistication if you're going this way. So what I want you to do is I want you to pause the video now, have another look at this diagram and figure out which one you think is going to be the best for you. Okay, moving on. These are the 2 options that we recommend. You have a block approach and a blended approach. Both work, and it really just depends on what works best for your particular writing style. So a block approach is probably more similar to a regular text response essay in that each paragraph will look at one particular text. You can still use your teal structure and everything will look very familiar. The difference with that is you only have 2 ideas. You talk about the same 2 ideas for each text, so you're not going to get the extra level of sophistication and breadth that you would with 3 ideas, but it is easier to structure. So if you struggle with essay structure and you struggle with what to say, if you generally can't find that 3rd argument, a block approach might be better for you. So what you have in a block approach is you have your introduction, you look at the ideas together. So your first main argument, you have a paragraph about text 1 using that argument. Then you talk about the same argument with text 2. This one, as you can see, has 4 paragraphs. So then you move on to your second idea. Idea 2 with text 1 as 1 paragraph, and then idea 2 with text 2 as another. So you end up writing quite a bit more, but as I said, if you are struggling with structure and you're struggling with expression, this might be the way to go. The other option is over here. This is your blended approach, okay? So rather than having a whole paragraph to each text, you talk about them at the same time. So this one is much more thematic and it's much more based around the ideas we've already been looking at in class. So your options are, again, introduction. You have 3 main ideas. So this is structured overall the same as a text response in that you have 3 arguments, 3 paragraphs. The difference is, rather than just talking about one text, you have to talk about both texts at the same time. So there's always going to be benefits and limitations depending on which way you go. Both are accepted at VCE level, as are the other structures I showed you in that diagram. But the blended approach is the preferred approach. Okay, that's what we teach almost solely at Keeler Downs, only because it's more sophisticated, you're more likely to get more marks. Now, you're also going to be drawing a lot more links and a lot more ideas, so you're more likely to get a higher mark on your SAC in your exam. That is not to say that you get marked down if you do the block approach. That is not true. But because we tend to start at 0 and work our way up when we're marking, you're not going to reach as high on the scale as if you were doing a blended approach. So what I'd like you to do is to take this information and try and figure out what's going to be best for you. I don't mind which way you do it, and for those not in my class, your teachers won't mind as long as your information is there.